What's up? It's your boy Carcino here, and let's talk about Family Matters. Yeah, everybody loves Family Matters, man. So, like I always tell you, when you donate to the page and you make sizable contributions like you guys did, I appreciate that. Shouts out to Harold and everybody else that donated to the Cash App and the other guys who definitely hit up the Streamlab. Definitely hit up the Streamlab. It's important. That's our super chat in the description box. Now, let's get to it. Family Matters, just like we did when we was giving you the breakdown of Good Times. In case you didn't see that, there's a video for Good Times too. Family Matters was a spinoff of a character that was on Perfect Strangers. In season 3, Perfect Strangers. Excuse me. Y'all remember in the live, I sprayed all that Raid to kill 2 flies, and still the effects. I've been airing out the room ever since. I think I done tore myself up. Use half a can. Now, anyhow, when this show first started, they were Balky and what's his name? I forgot the other guy's name, but Balky's the guy you know from if you watch Beverly Hills Cop. Yes, play Surge. Larry and Balky, Perfect Strangers. So anyway, she was the elevator cop, or the person who worked at as the elevator operator. You know, she opens and closes the elevators for the newspaper in Chicago. So they did a spinoff on her character because her character was so funny. They loved the Harriet character. So they spun it into a show about Harriet's family. Perfect Strangers. Oh man. They spun it to Family Matters from Perfect Strangers. Now, the auditions were crazy because they already knew they wanted to build this show with Reginald Van Johnson. Reginald Van Johnson was perfect, you know, theater actor. He played a cop in almost everything he was in, from Ghostbusters to Die Hard. Die Hard 2, he had a little bit piece in there. But he was never getting calls from Hollywood, which was shocking that, you know, he wasn't getting bigger roles when the movies he was in was actually worked out pretty good, and he's a great actor. So to move to television and have basically a starring role as the husband, this was going to be incredible. Because back then, you know, they still had a problem with making a female, for some reason, a black female, the star of the show, even though the show was about Harriet. The Family Matters was her family. They talking about her. So here comes the Winslow family. So when they brought everyone in, it was entirely different. Like they had Carl Winslow the cop, and they got auditioned for all of this large cast of people. And here was the thing, they were planning on not having all of these characters on the show. But like when they start the show, they're gonna be there, but they were thinking, you know, if this thing blows up, we could spin this and we could make a show here. We could make a show there. We could spin a couple of shows off here. That could be very successful. Now, being from Chicago, I could only explain to you what it was like having a family from the south suburbs portrayed in our city of Chicago. A lot of the things that happened on this show were kind of iconic to how it was in the 90s growing up. This was the 90s television show, where the Cosby Show was basically the 80s. This was the 90s. Family Matters was that black suburban family. And a lot of things played out a lot like the Cosby Show, but just more modern. So when they were looking around, one of the producers on the show, one of the guys who created it, Michael Warren, he had a buddy named Steve Urkel. Quite sure you guys have heard the story. Steve Urkel, who spells his name E-R-K-E-L, unlike the U-R-K-E-L from the character, he decided to honor his buddy, Steve, by putting him into a show and making a character for his buddy, Steve Urkel. So now, here we go. Now, Steve Urkel, they got the funny suspenders, they put everything on him, and it was supposed to be a gag, you know, just paying respects to their friend Steve. And when they put Jaleel White in there to play this role, he never thought he was going to get on the show, because they never told him it was going to be on the show. He was a guest feature. He wasn't a part of the original cast whatsoever. So he was never picked to be on the show. They never say, hey, we gonna cast him. He's on the show. Because remember, he was supposed to be on Saved by the Bell. He was on the other show with the teacher that got turned into Saved by the Bell, and then they didn't pick him. Now, when the show was getting kicked off, they decided to make him make a couple of appearances. Like, I think it was slated that he'll have a couple of, appearances, and maybe one or two, just for gags, as the next door neighbor and everything else. So he didn't even come through. Like, they didn't start the show with him. They brought him in like in the middle of the first season. So he came in with the suspenders, had the pants all the way up, the glasses, and once he came over, the crowd that they had to come in there, the studio audience, they were laughing so loud at him and his overindulgence. Did I do that? Laura. His obsession with Laura and everything else, they loved it. They ate that up. He became a regular character on the show after that, after the numbers were completely through the roof for Urkel. So as the first season comes down and it's more stuff involving Urkel now, the rest of the family is kind of getting antsy. Because remember, you have a very, very, very large cast. I mean, you have the grandmother, you have Harriet, you used to have a daughter and a son, another son, a best friend. It was a mess. So by, Laura being the only daughter on the show, they needed that teenage girl, and the little girl on the show, her parents started to ask for more money. We know how that happened. And eventually she was gone from the show and gone out of Hollywood, and she's too young to understand the business of what was going on. But her parents was trying to basically extort the broadcast and Warner Brothers at the time, and was like, look, we want to renegotiate the contracts or our daughter's walking off the show. So they fired her, and that was quick. But Urkel became the show. From that point on, Urkel's popularity was way bigger than Eddie's. They thought Laura would eventually be the teenage daughter star, her and Eddie. They would be the anchors of the show, while Harriet and, they'll be the ones that really go, but the teenagers would relate more to them. Everybody related to Urkel, even the adults. He was killing in all the rating brackets from 13 to 17, from 18 to 24 to 33 to 45s, and even the older people, they loved Steve Urkel. His numbers were through the roof. So the studios decided to make money right away. They started making Urkel lunchboxes. There were Urkel thermoses, Urkel t-shirts, Urkel suspenders. They had Urkel cereal of Urkel, like Urkel O's or something like that. They have branded a cereal. He had a doll. Can you believe that? Urkel had a doll. So, playing off the fact of the Cosby Show, they really stormed into the 90s. So where the Cosby Show kind of got stale is because the kids got older, and it became the same old rendition. So they started to add new casts like in a hurry instead of trying to introduce them from the start or partially through previous seasons to work their way in. They just dumped everybody in a season to try to save and salvage what was happening on the Cosby Show. And you could see this show wasn't going to do that. This show had a large enough cast where they can be involved in a lot of different aspects. And it is the second longest running show that's, predominantly black family since the Jeffersons. That's right, the Jeffersons. Now back to that little girl who ran up the stairs and didn't come back down no more. Jamie Foxworth, who played Judy. You see, Judy was in the pilot episode. So they had like the pilot episode. They had like two different Judys or whatever play it, and then she got replaced by Jamie Foxworth because she got another role offer. But Jamie Foxworth was a mess after being taken off of the show because she never understood why she was fired. But her parents, they wanted their child to get more money, and they were responsible for her money and everything else. And sometimes when you have these child actors and you have parents who are so absorbed to make it, you're like, we gotta make it, this is it, We gotta make it happen right now. Come on, everybody. When you have that going, it's very difficult on the child. Because even though they're acting on television, that's still a child. They think they're stars. They're on TV. They got fans. They got people watching them. So they're thinking, we have a lot of money. And then next thing you know, she's not going to work anymore. And she doesn't know why. This had a big effect on her. And Jamie became more distant. She started to rebel. She didn't understand why she wasn't being auditioned for other shows. And she's trying to get back into business and work. And she's fighting with her parents. She's rebelled so much. It led to her getting caught up with the wrong people in Hollywood. And she started making adult films under the name of Crave. And she started getting hooked on drugs so bad that she ended up having to go to celebrity rehab to try to get back into work again. And now she's raising her kids. She got a son now, and now she's talking about her life as a child star. Apologize for choking myself out with Raid. So, as this show is moving, the kids are getting older. So Steve Urkel is saying, look, everybody sees him as Urkel, and this is going to hurt him. And even his agent is telling him, like, look, we had roles, movie offers. Jaleel White is a talented actor, but he had a lot of movie roles that didn't go to him because he was typecast as Urkel. People saw him as Urkel. So he was like, look, I'm going to have to leave the show. And they were like, what? He's like, yeah, because a lot of people just see me as Urkel. And it's hurting me. I'm missing out on all these movie roles that are going by, big things that I should be involved in 100%. I'm not getting it. Somebody else is picking it up. And it's like not making any sense to me or anybody else in the world why someone else is getting these roles that should definitely go to me because I'm the bigger star. So even though the studio was making money and everybody's doing well, the only person who wasn't doing well, the only person who was suffering, the only person who really wasn't happy about it the only person who was like, wow, I'm feeling really good about this, or I'm happy about this, or the only people was the studio. They were raking in all the benefits. Urkel was happy for the people knowing who he was, but Jaleel White, but they keep calling him Urkel on the streets, and it's hurting him forever moving forward in his life. If the television show ended, what would he have? So, with that being said, they decided to do some retoning with the Urkel character. Start making him have this split personality where he drinks a potion and he turns into Stefan. And people got to see Jaleel White as the adult man that he was, and start seeing Jaleel. So they was Stefan, and then everybody's like, I like when he drink that serum and turn into Stefan. And he get all smooth, and he did the baby face. This is for the cool in you. When they did that, this was the first time other people saw Jaleel White as, wow, this is the guy that walks in before he turns into Steve Urkel. Now you get to see what kind of actor he was, because you just assumed he was like Urkel all the time until you actually saw his performance. And was like, wow, this guy can really act. He's really good. Really good. So, of course, there were people who were jealous of Urkel's success on the show. Now, of course, Eddie was one of the people who still had his shine, but his role was reduced a lot over the years because of Urkel. But who was completely lost was Thelma Hopkins, who played on Give Me a Break with Nail Carter, and here she is on this show with her two kids, and she felt like, I'm just here now. I feel more like a babysitter than part of the cast, like I was supposed to be when the show first started. They were going to show a lot of her, featuring her going on dates and, you know, trying to find a new man and for her kids. And they were going to do a spinoff show with her and her kids. They were supposed to have their own show. This was going to bridge them off, and they were going to branch off from Family Matters. But they were starting this on Family Matters, and this was the whole plan from the beginning. They set it up for them to branch off, do their own show, and eventually, what people didn't know is that Laura and Jaleel White and Urkel were going to have their own show. This thing was going to be a series of spinoffs that you have no idea how everything just went to crap. So they got a big boy check to go to CBS. Everybody was like, what? They were like, yep, come back to do the show, because the mom was tired. Everybody's like, she's just tired of Urkel and all this stuff. She was tired of the show. You know, when you do something over and over and over again, you get tired. You guys get tired of your job. They were tired. So there was rumors that Harry is mad that the writers keep writing about Urkel. Every episode's about Urkel. And Eddie's friend, who was just happy to be on the show, was Eddie's best friend. They were trying to do a Theo and Cockroach type of situation with them. Those two were going to go to college and get their own show in college and do all that. That was going to be fun. That didn't pan out because a lot of people weren't too caught into Eddie. Like, he was just a good supporting character. They didn't think he was strong enough to hold his own show. So that really hurt the success of his buddy, who was played the other dumb friend that came on the show, who wasn't too bright. But that Urkel just ended up, because he was the original Urkel, and then here come this guy, Jaleel White, who just had the look, everything. Right, you had the grandma, you had everything. You had all the pieces there to make the show a successful hit. So Thelma Hopkins was the one that didn't have the love for Steve Urkel's character and how they were writing for it. But it wasn't pertaining to him. It was how the studios, you know, when he wasn't supposed to be the star, he ended up being the star of the show. So now he went from a character who wasn't even a part of the cast to now he's the star of the show. The show's been rewritten and she's just sitting around. So if you don't say anything, if you try to get other work, they're gonna be like, well, you really didn't do anything on that show. So naturally, this is what you have to do in the business. Oh, well, definitely. Well, people have to decide what is it that they want. When you decide what you want out of life, you understand where you're going. What's your direction? And when you start seeing where the show was going and how the producers were going, they saw a big, gigantic check from CBS, and her contract was basically up. Harriet. So she was just like, they were like, please come with us to CBS. We just got the deal. She didn't even want to come back to be the wife. She's just like, I'm exhausted. I just want to go do something else. And so they said, oh, look, we'll let you do your 8 episodes, whatever, and you have an option. You can decide to stay in after the 8 episodes, or you can leave. So when she filmed 8 episodes, she used her option to get out. So when they had another woman come in and finish the rest of the season as the wife, they went in a whole different direction for the 9th season, which was the last. They had plans on doing a 10th season, but that was it. It was just done. Without Harriet, and Jaleel White kind of was tired of playing Steve Urkel. The thing where him and Laura got engaged, they was in season 10, they were going to get married, and then they were going to get a spinoff show. The whole spinoff with Thelma Hopkins stuff was done after basically season 2. They were just like, no, we don't need to do that. So when they didn't go down that direction, they was like, why put together a whole nother thing that's probably not going to work out? But who knows what would have happened, if they'd have went towards that direction originally. That show might have worked with Thelma Hopkins and her kids, and she's trying to find a man or whatever, and, doing her own show. Who knows? I think her name was Rachel on the show, Auntie Rachel. So that was it, man. I mean, from this show, the actress that played Laura, she really didn't get the opportunities a lot of people thought she was going to get after the fact. Darius McCray really didn't get the opportunities that he thought he was going to get in the business. A lot of people don't know why. The actress that played Harriet, she did a couple of things, but a lot of them really didn't go into stardom after this. Even Reginald Van Johnson went back to theater and doing smaller projects. He was in Avengers Endgame in a deleted scene playing a cop. Jaleel White. What Jaleel White did was a couple of commercials, a couple of projects that really didn't go too much of anywhere, but it's like Hollywood wasn't calling knocking for them, and I thought that was a shame. I really like this show, but it is what it is. So don't forget, click the link in the description box. Support the channel. Hit up the Streamlab. Or you can hit us up on the Cash App. The name's Carcino for the Cash App. And I'm out. You have a blessed day.